The Romantic Road is 420 kilometers of lovely landscapes, enchanting medieval villages, and historic castles, an award-winning route here in southern Germany. Our plan is to travel about 50K a day with all our possessions packed in panniers on our bicycle. We'll begin in Würzburg, site of the Marienburg Castle, and cycle to Neuschwanstein Castle in Füssen. We leave our kayaking gear at our Würzburg hotel. We enjoy a celebration dinner to begin our trip with beer and wine all around. Seafood pasta, fig-filled ravioli, and wild boar stew. Day 1, we're going from Würzburg to Tauberbischofsheim. After a typical German breakfast of buns, meats, and cheeses, we go to rent our bikes. Herr Körner has a bike store. Cliff gets a very good bike. Ashley gets a bike where it's hard to change the gears on the right hand. Mike has a good bike. Judy has to change gears with the palm of her hand, and her chain keeps slipping off. We leave Würzburg crossing the main river. The bridge is a place where people enjoy to drink wine, and it's guarded by these saintly saints. Uh-oh, disaster strikes early. Ashley falls off her bike and actually has a few bloody accidents along the way, all well documented here. Now we're officially on our way, the Romantische Straße. Mike is the navigator. He's armed with a series of maps and a GPS. He has to guide us along the way, making sure we're on the right path, and it's not so easy with signs like this. We arrive in Tauberbischofsheim. Our first day of cycling is a success. Day 2, Tauberbischofsheim to Kreglingen, stops in Lauda and Bad Mergentheim. Mike the mechanic releases the wire caught in the kickstand so Ashley can change gears. We quickly learn that every town has a main market square, foot traffic only, and a very rich cafe culture. Here in Bad Mergentheim, we begin our tradition of having coffee and cake. And good hot chocolate. A nice touch for the Canadian tourists is the chocolate maple leaf. There's always a professional pharmacy on the main square, here with fine crafted wooden shelves. The landscape is dotted with many open fields. Lovely sunflowers greet us. There are ruby red ripe apples on the trees. There are plenty of vineyards rolling over the hills. In Wickersheim, we stop for an ice cream. It's a chance to visit the famous dwarves in the castle grounds. We pass countless fields of corn, these stalks having only 1 or 2 cobs each. It's harvested as silage for animal feed. Uh-oh, now what are we going to do? Fortunately, there's a local man here who shows us the temporary bridge. At first, we were planning how we were going to wade across the river to get to the other side.
On
Look at Cliff go. He's paddling as hard as he can, overtaking all of us. And it's not long before we arrive in Craiglingen, a city dating from 1349. Here's the goddess of the harvest. Mike checks his map book to find us a place to stay. It turns out to be a good place, and look how they make the beds.
Can we just drink?
Oh, that's a very good beer.
Wiener Schnitzel and Spätzle, apple strudel for dessert. Day 3, 40K, Craiglingen to Schillingsfürst via Rothenburg. At Herrgottskirche is an altarpiece dedicated to the Virgin Mary. 5 years to carve, 1505 to 1510, by Tilman Riemenschneider. It's 11 meters high with very many splendid folds in the garments, delicate hands, and sculptured faces. We cycle through the towns. We cycle through the countryside, all on these lovely paved paths, and soon we arrive in Rothenburg. Rothenburg has been a town since 1170. In fact, it's known as the quintessential German town. It's attracted tourists for hundreds of years. The main square is bordered by stuccoed houses with medieval step roof lines and flower-filled window boxes. As interesting as Rothenburg is, we have to move on. So much to see and so little time. We're almost in Schillingsfürst, and here's where we stay. A shorter ride today, only 31K from Schillingsfürst to Dinkelsbühl.
That's what I'm getting.
At the entrance and exit of each town and village are these garden allotments for vegetables and flowers. This is farm country, and the harvest is in full swing. In between the cultivated fields are planned, managed forests to provide firewood. Dinkelsbühl is a charming medieval city that we plan to spend some extra time at. Legend has it that when Swedish troops besieged the town in the mid-1600s, a teenage girl took children to the Swedish general to beg for mercy, and the general spared the town. This graphic painting tells peasants in medieval days they'd better not steal or they'd lose their hand. Dinkelsbühl is filled with gabled houses, lovely pastel colors. It's a town where people live, not just a tourist trap. Here's our hotel for this evening, and the same method to make the bed. Clock towers and church bells ring out all along the way. For the clocks, they ring on the quarter, half, and 3/4 of the hour. This door to the cathedral in Dinkelsbühl is featured on the €5 note. St. George's Cathedral is a spectacular Gothic church. Took 51 years to build. Here we light candles for our parents, gone but not forgotten. Unlike other restored medieval towns, there is a water-filled moat round this town in Dinkelspool, and it's filled with carp. Okay, who got the most beer this time? To keep the flavor of the medieval towns, there are no neon signs, only these magnificent, intricate, wrought iron metal signs. Dinkelspool at night is magical, so we join the night watchman on his tour of the city. In the olden days, the night watchman was responsible for keeping the guards awake, checking the doors were locked, and making sure there were no fires.
Das Feuer und das Licht, dass unserer Stadt kein Schad geschieht.
See the glass of wine on the left-hand side? Everyone on the tour has to have a sip before we can carry on to the next pot. Now it's day 5. We leave Dinkelspool and head to Harburg via Nordlingen. Mike is always having to check his maps, watch the signs, and listen to us suggest ways that we should go. There was one day when we got lost, and Cliff thought it was quite fun. Aren't they beautiful? And they're all facing us, saying hello. We make some interesting friends along the way. The local people are always willing to help with directions, and Mike enjoys to have a chat to practice his German. The sky got black and the rain came down in torrents. We were quite spread out at this point. Judy and Ashley took shelter in a barn, Cliff under a tree, and Mike in a garage. Just as soon as we got our rain gear on, the storm was over. Judy is very strong getting up the hills. On the other hand, Ashley did a lot of walking. But I have to say, it was a big slog up to Harburg. The guest house in Harburg has been in the same family for 500 years. If we had the energy and it wasn't so foggy, here's the castle in Harburg we could have gone to. Day 6, Harburg to Oberndorf via Donauwörth and Rhein. It's foggy this morning and we want to have our headlamps on. Unfortunately, Judy's doesn't work. What's wrong? What?
The wires are not connected to the generator. Big problem.
This helicopter is not about to crash. We've arrived in Donauwörth, where 6,000 workers fabricate Airbus helicopters. We meet Shushu on our way into Donauwörth. He has cycled across Russia, part of Europe, and through Britain. He's planning to cycle around the world. We invite him for coffee. He tells us he earns some money by busking, and we ask him to perform.
Imagine there's no heaven. See you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will leave us one.
Lovely. Thank you so much. snowshoe is on his way to Greece and then to Africa. We're hungry and we stop here, a place that isn't really open, but the lady says, yes, she'll make us some soup. We want to stop in picturesque Rain. We read that there's a very good ice cream shop here. Just look at all the flavors that you can choose from. They even have a spaghetti ice cream. Now, it doesn't have spaghetti flavor, but it has ice cream noodles with the sauce of your choice. We were following Mike, and then we lost him. Can this possibly be the right way? Well, yes, it is. We cross the Danube River here.
Ein ganzes Jahr, ein ganzes Jahr und noch viel mehr. Die Liebe nahm kein Ende mehr. Ein ganzes Jahr.
That screeching sound you hear is cliff breaking. We're stopping to see the swans in the Danube River. Mike, stop! We'd like to go to Tillyweg. Listen to Mike as he phones ahead to book our room.
Wir brauchen 2 Doppelzimmer. Würden Sie das haben? Eine Nacht. Von heute auf morgen, ja.
It's a farmhouse, and there's an area in their barn where we can store our bikes. Another game of one-upmanship. Who got the most beer? On day 7, we cycle 46K from Oberndorf to Augsburg. Augsburg is a big commercial and university city that began over 2,000 years ago as a Roman encampment. It was named for Augustus the emperor. The double-headed eagle was used as a coat of arms for the Holy Roman Empire and was later adopted by the German Kaisers. Maximilianstrasse is the main street in Augsburg, highlighted with Roman fountains. Here is the Hercules Fountain. St. Ulrich's Church has a splendid Rococo interior. The organist was playing when we arrived. Cliff stocks up on bitter lemon, beer, and snacks before we arrive at our hotel. It's day 8, and we go from Augsburg to Landsberg am Lech, 52K. Coffee and McDonald's starts our day. We are always surprised at the lovely small churches, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, that we see along the route. And now we've arrived in Landsberg, where this majestic Gothic defensive tower greets us. It's a great freewheeling downhill from here to the main square. A Virgin Mary fountain is surrounded by stucco buildings. Just as a matter of interest, Hitler was imprisoned in Landsberg in 1924 and began to write Mein Kampf. We see narrow streets with gabled houses, here where the Danube comes over a waterfall, and the marvelous Holy Cross Church. Landsberg is close to Munich, where it's Oktoberfest, so we're directed across the bridge to find a place to stay. Today we'll do 56K between Landsberg am Lech to Steingarten. As we get farther south, the landscape changes. Not so much farming, more raising animals, cattle, goats, and sheep.
So weit geht bis morgen früh, ja früh, sonst wir im Alkohol bis an die Knie.
There are lots of wide open spaces and rolling hills, some steeper than others.
I'm exhausted with the hills.
But not Judy, she powers up every hill. Look at the size of these bells. How can they keep eating with all that clanging? Now we've arrived in Steingarten. We learn a new way to fold napkins. Potato or flour dumplings you can have with your beef or schnitzel. Plum cake for dessert. Now we're on the home stretch, day 10, and heading towards Wieskirche, known as the pilgrimage church to our tortured Savior on the meadow. We pass another crucifix, just one of many along the way. In 1730, priests fashioned a Jesus on the cross for a Good Friday procession. They covered it with red painted linen. By 1734, some thought it too heavily blood-stained and it was removed from the church. Many years later, a parishioner looked at it and saw Jesus crying tears. They built a new church to commemorate this special event, and pilgrims came. Lovely flowers in the window boxes. Many buildings are covered with solar panels that the German government subsidized several years ago. This is dairy cow country. We have to enter a field where these cows are and be sure to close the gate on the other side.
Well, girls, you're curious, aren't you? You're curious.
Who are these people? Hey? Who are these people?
These are heifers.
We've been cycling the romantic road from north to south so we could see the Bavarian Alps. Here's our first view, and there in the fog is Neuschwanstein Castle.
Das
Most villages in this outdoor playground have their own ski lift. It can be used by the paragliders.
Ja, ja, dass ich die Lifte steile Polka, mein Schatz, ja, ja.
Schwangau and now Fussen. We finished our 450K of the Romantic Road. These fountains are at the Tourist Information Center. We've seen lots of really interesting fountains. We stay in this private home for the next 2 days. Main street in Fussen is called the Reichenstrasse. It's filled with coffee places and good people watching. Spätzle and cheese is the equivalent of macaroni and cheese. I have a bun shaped like a swan with my soup. Judy calls us to her room early in the morning to see the sky. It's clear, we can see the mountains, and we know that we'll see the castles at their very, very best. After a breakfast of meat and cheese and buns, we ride our bikes to see Castle Hohenschwangau. And here is the world-famous Neuschwanstein Castle. Ludwig, shown here, grew up in Castle Hohenschwangau, but he wanted to have a dream castle. He was enthralled by the German legends and sagas put to music by Wagner, and his castle was to be a magical fairy castle, one that he could withdraw to. Building Neuschwanstein was costing an enormous amount of money. He had borrowed a lot of funds from foreign banks. In 1855, these banks threatened to seize his castle. He refused to leave, so the government declared him insane. The next day, under very mysterious circumstances, he died drowning in a nearby lake. It was only a matter of weeks before the banks, trying to recoup their losses, opened the castle to tourists. And to this day, the castle attracts 6,000 tourists each day coming to see this magical location. It's only a short walk beyond the castle to Marienbrück, which provides a spectacular view of the castle. And look, couples have locked their love to the bridge here. We take the train from Fussen to Würzburg. We catch the return train for our trip to Würzburg. It will take us about 5 hours with stops to do what it took 10 days to cycle. We have to change trains 2 times. First of all, we change trains at Augsburg, and then at Trutschlingen, where we have only 5 minutes to exit the train, take our bikes down the stairs, under 2 sets of tracks, and then push the bike up the stairs to catch the train to Würzburg. We make the connection with no time to spare. We think that the conductor held the train for us so we would manage this connection. Okay, we've arrived safely in Würzburg, and look at this magnificent cathedral, this fascinating street, and these really interesting fountains. Würzburg is a commercial center and home to many university students. Judy and Ashley think this is a great sign. Now we become just like the locals, heading to the bridge for a glass of wine. Herr Perciviet has a reservation for dinner at a restaurant right beside the bridge. Tonight we have pork knuckle and fish for dinner, and for some reason Mike has to wait a long time for his to come. Dessert tonight, and then gaze up at the magnificent Marienburg Fortress. The Marienburg Fortress was built in 1201 as the residence of the Prince Bishops of Würzburg. It protected them from the people. Prince Bishops decided they needed a more extravagant palace in the city and began building this residence in 1701. A very knowledgeable tour guide took us through the residence. We climbed this magnificent staircase and gazed up at the frescoes done by Italian artist Tiepolo, showing the world as they knew it at that time. Elaborately decorated rooms. This ornate Baroque chapel hosts as many as 20 weddings per weekend. This iron gate, we walk to the back of the palace and see its beauty from the rear and its wonderful gardens. This residence of the Prince Bishops is a UNESCO World Heritage Building. And so we have completed the romantic road just as planned. It's been good fun with good friends. Judy, Mike, and Cliff returned from Frankfurt direct to Calgary to resume our regular routine. On the other hand, Ashley flies from Frankfurt to London to go and see her cousin Sinclair. When the taxi isn't available to pick her up, she takes the Heathrow Express, the Underground, and then the train to Dartford, all on her own. Sinclair lives here at 230 Summerhouse Drive in Wilmington, Kent. Sinclair always tells me that my dad Leslie was his hero. Dad's mother Lizzie and Sinclair's mother Aggie were sisters. Anne comes down from Lincolnshire to help to look after us. She and Sinclair consider themselves brother and sister, and she and her family do an excellent job of looking after him. One afternoon we walked through this park behind Sinclair's house. It's a wild area with chestnut trees and oak trees. There's even holly bushes with red berries. Sinclair is wearing his Snowy Owl dog sled fleece he got when he came to see us for Christmas in Now it's my turn to head home, back to the usual routine after a wonderful holiday.